the tarot, people on Earth have many different theories about where that could have originated, whether it's ancient Egypt, or what do you know about where system came from?
Well, it's not as old as ancient Egypt. It connects primarily to what you would call Europe, and it was developed post-Renaissance. So what we'll say is the following. The archetypes that the tarot cards represent are archetypes that the ancient Egyptians were also tuned into and were channeling in their own ways. The emerald tablets, in many ways, have a connection to this, the same type of energies that propelled the innovation of the tarot were also some of the energies that were channeled in the creation of what you call the emerald tablets. So the archetypal themes play out in many different places across time. But the idea is the tarot are more novel. And even though they were created for occult purposes, that was not necessarily how they were used when they were first created. They were first utilized by many people as a type of playing card. However, over time, the idea is they became more utilized in mystical practices and in mystical types of exploration. And once they had gained a reputation for mystical power, they became widely celebrated. There were even holidays that were themed around the tarot for some time. And after a certain point, the hype around it died down and the use of them became less common. And this had to do with different types of changes in society as society began to move into a more modern type of expression where science, technology, and the rational mind became the higher ideal. Around this time, that's when they fell out of common use.
You and Tyler have talked about how the major arcana are sort of a roadmap of the spiritual journey. It seems that this knowledge is like deep knowledge that must have come from very adept spiritual initiates. So I wonder, is that knowledge much older?
Yes,
major arcana.
Yes. And this has to do with what we were getting at earlier, because as you know, the emerald tablets were created by the being you called the Thoth or Thoth. And this being, in many ways, pioneered what you would call the major Hermetic studies and practices. So those archetypes, which are also a part of the tarot, were very much embedded in the Hermetic philosophy and in their initiation processes and ritual processes. So there is a sort of transference from the Hermetic times in Egypt, as well as into the more, you could say, later periods where the tarot were created and utilized. So there's a sort of transference that took place.
Yes. And this being Thoth, many people seem to ascribe to him the Hermetic arts, magic, things like this. Was he a human being, or was he more of a extra dimensional being?
Both. And what we mean by that is this being is what you describe as an ascended master. So they have immortalized their consciousness. So what this means is this being could die and could exist in the spirit realm as an immortal, never having to take on an incarnation again. This being also has the ability to take on an incarnation if they choose, and they don't lose their memories. So it's preserved. So this being has incarnated time and time again and has guided humanity through different bodies. So this being is similar to the being you call Saint Germain in that way. What you call Yeshua or Christ is also similar in that way. So anyone that you consider to be an ascended master is an individual who has completed this process where they have immortalized their consciousness. So they become a living archive of all of their experiences, and those experiences are never lost. They're only added to through novel experience. So Dahat or Thoth is one of these beings, and he has popped up again and again and again throughout history, and oftentimes will share these teachings with the different cultures that he's born into.
Okay. And these ascended masters, they are, in that sense, they're kind of always available to human beings who are raise their frequency or connect with them. They're always there to teach and to guide.
Yes, exactly. Yes. That's why when you meditate upon these beings, you feel like something's happening. You feel like there's a type of energy when you tune into them. And that's because you're actively tuning into their consciousness. It's still alive. It's become a permanent part of your earth. It's become a permanent part of your collective psyche. So when you meditate and you look upon these beings, they're also looking back at you.
And would you say that there's sort of a team working behind the scenes to help guide humanity in our evolution of these ascended masters and other beings?
Yes, endlessly. Now, they can't do it without your help because you have a greater say than they do, because you are the physical one. So your actions will create immediate results, where energetic actions oftentimes will take a bit more time and it's more subtle. So they're constantly infusing wisdom, love, benevolence into your collective psyche. And this, in many ways, penetrates through the conditioning many of you have taken on, and it begins to wake you all up, or it begins to inspire you and prompt you towards actions that are beneficial for the whole of your collective.
So I guess most human beings have no idea just how much there's sort of an orchestration happening behind the scenes.
Yes. They're very much unaware of this. And it specifically is because of the densification of the ego. When the ego is very dense and a person's locked in to that type of mentality, it's almost like it tunes everything out that is not related to the personal self. So a person becomes wrapped up in their own universe and their own delusion of their own universe. So they miss all of that information. But that doesn't mean the information's not there. It just means they can't hear it because they're not tuned into it.